board, right?
Mm-hmm. It's recording.
Okay, so our project, for our final project, we did BlackJack. So in the beginning of our game, that in our project proposal, we wanted to include obviously 52 cards in our deck. And for the 2-player option and 1-player option, we wanted to include a dealer mode, which is when one person plays the game and we play against the dealer. And for our 2-player mode, we wanted to include ThinkSpeak, but we did not get to that at this moment. And so for our flow chart about how to play, first we would obviously start the game, and then we would have a menu saying if we wanted to pick the 1-player option or the 2-player option. So I will be describing the 1-player option, and Arius will be describing our 2-player option. So for our 1-player option, once we click the 1-player option, we would load into a game, and we would be dealt 2 cards, and the dealer would be dealt 2 cards. And if our cards were how we wanted it, meaning the card value was less than or equal to 21, then we would stay. But if we wanted to add another card to try and get closer to this value, we would press hit. After we would go, it would be the dealer's turn, which would be the exact same thing that we just did. And then after that, we would compare the scores between the 2 players to see who won, to see who busted, meaning who went over 21. And if no one busted, then we would compare the 2 scores and see which one was closest to 21.
In regards to the 2-player one, it follows the exact same format as the 1-player, except in this one, we plan to have to make it be able to online platform or in person. But since we were unable to do that, the whole layout of it was just you had player 1 who handled his cards first, and whenever he decided to stay, it'd be the next person's turn. And following that, the player 2 will decide to either hit or stay, depending on whatever their card was. After they decided hit or stay, their score should already be calculated, and at the very end, both scores would be compared, and then whoever was closest 1 to 21 would win.
Yeah. And now moving on to features, Caleb will be describing our features.
So for the features, what we wanted to include was we wanted to shuffle the cards and pick one upon like the hit button, right? Then we wanted a buzz sound to like appear if the player were to bust. And then we wanted a 2-player mode, so like friend versus friend. And then we wanted
this would be like why we wanted to use ThinkSpeak, but we never got to this point. So this is the 2-player mode would be if we were to include ThinkSpeak.
And then we also wanted like it to display the score. So yeah, basically show the value of the cards and who's in the lead.
Okay. And then for after that, I made a template for our BlackJack GUI template. And this basically just gives us a visual representation of what we just explained. So on the left-hand side, we can see we'd have a card count, meaning it would total up how much our value would be of our 2 cards. We would have our how to play function, which basically we would code a function that once we hit this button, an informational screen would pop up and teach the player how to properly play BlackJack. And then on the bottom left-hand side, we would see hit, which was when we'd want cards because we wanted to get as close to 21 as possible. And these cards would be randomly picked because we would code it so that the card is randomly drawn from our 52 deck. And then here in the middle, we can see what mode we are on, and we would be on player 1. So that means we'd be playing against the dealer. And then on the right-hand side, we can see stay, and this is for when we don't want any more cards because we are already satisfied with our current value. And then, yeah, and also when we first load into the game, we would be having 2 cards, and then these 2 would be randomly generated as well. And then in regards to our code, this is what we had for deck. And basically, we would just have various codes that we tried our best to, yeah. And then this is for hand, which Caleb did.
Yeah. So this would basically show like the cards that you have in your hand, right? Like as the player.
And then Arius did the card's identity.
So the card's identity would give each card its own assignable value from 1 to 52 in a standard size deck. Once it's assigned that value, it'd be able to reproduce a card image that had that same exact value and that same suit onto a card, and then we'd be able to put it onto the GUI.
All right. And then moving forward, we would have our MLAP, which obviously we didn't get to finish creating our app, but this is what it would look like. And so this looks exactly like our GUI template with our game options, hit, stay button, draw card, and how to play. And if we were to run it, this is what our game would look like. And then if we were to hit how to play, it would bring up how we were to play blackjack. And yeah, that would be our final project. Thank you.
Please give us